You're listening to ayahuascapodcast.com.
There are so many ways that cacao can be beneficial, whether it's spiritual or emotional or just physical, with the properties, all the vitamins, nutrients, antioxidants. There are so many ways that people can choose to drink cacao. You don't have to be on a spiritual mission every day.
So I just realized I've been lying to people because I thought that the difference between the ceremonial cacao and the store-bought cacao is the type of the bean.
If you have something that tastes anything like chocolate, it's not raw, and there's no possible way for it to be raw. There's a lot of people that tell you that, no, ceremonial cacao, it should be harsh, it should be strong, but if you don't like to drink it, then you're not going to drink it.
You talk about Colombian government replacing coca plantations with cacao plantations.
God forbid you buy cacao from Africa, where still 80% of the labor that works in the cacao fields in Africa is slave labor and child labor.
Hi guys, and welcome to Ayahuasca Podcast. As always, with the host Sam Believ, and today I'm having a conversation with Danielle Kisere.
Yeah.
Danielle is the founder of Origin Cacao. We're right here at her farm. Some of you that come to Loire, you've been participating in cacao ceremonies last 6 months or so, and it's been done with cacao from Danielle's farm. So I'm here at the source, and we're going to talk about cacao today.
This episode is sponsored by Loire Ayahuasca Retreat. At Loire, we combine affordability, accessibility, and authenticity. Loire, connect, heal, grow. Guys, I'm looking forward to hosting you.
Danielle, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Danielle, tell us, cacao is your sort of final stop, but you participated in other medicine traditions before. Tell us your story of where were you before, and then how did you find the medicines, and how did you end up working with cacao?
Well, I came to Colombia in 2014. I didn't know anything about the medicine or any medicines or anything like that. I was kind of in a transitional point of my life, and I had just come here for a short vacation. But then I decided to stay. I ended up going to an ayahuasca ceremony. Just by pure accident, I met some woman on the plane who said that I needed to go to Medellin because it was the most beautiful city in Colombia. I was staying in Santa Marta. And so I just Google searched what to do in Medellin, and little article came up about an ayahuasca ceremony, and that sounds interesting. Maybe it might help me. And I went, and it was absolutely terrible. It was the most ridiculous thing. I can't believe that I paid money to go. I think it was only like $20. But it was up in the mountains, and it was so cold, and I didn't really speak much Spanish at the time, and when I arrived, the Taita gave me a tobacco purge. So he just put this like golf ball size of tobacco in my mouth with his dirty fingers, and I was really sick from that. And I didn't really feel the medicine, and it was freezing cold. And I'm like, why? I can't believe I paid money to do this. Like, why do people do this? It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went back to Santa Marta to do my thing, and one of the girls that I had met at ceremony, she was also from the U.S. She came to visit me out there. She's like, oh, no, but it's really great. You need to try again. I'm like, I don't think so. She's like, no, you need to try again. So I went back, and I went to go find the organizer, and I told him that I wanted to thank the lady who was singing at the last ceremony, that it was really the only beautiful thing that I experienced the whole time. There was some woman singing, and it was really super beautiful. And he's like, what are you talking about? We don't have a female singer. There was nobody singing that night. So I had spent the whole night thinking that absolutely no effects from the medicine, and nothing happened to me. And turns out something did happen. And then that night turned out to be really, really beautiful. So I kept going back, and then I stayed in Colombia, and been working with the medicine ever since. As far as cacao, when I had decided to stay in Colombia, I figured I needed something to do. besides drink medicine. That if I was going to stay here and live here, I should do something. And my mother had asked me at one point to send her back some chocolate. She had heard that Colombia made great chocolate, and I couldn't find any. It turns out nobody in Colombia was actually making good chocolate, bean to bar chocolate, ceremonial cacao, nothing. There was nothing happening here in that sense. And so I started to learn how to make chocolate, and
It's okay. There's a dog singing. It's funny.
So I started learning about chocolate and kept working with the medicine and learning about, the plant medicines and that. And at one of my ceremonies, I met Asdrubal, who is from the Arhuacu tribe. And we started talking a lot. And turns out he had a cacao farm in the Sierra Nevada on the Arhuacu reservation. And so he sent me some cacao to see how it turned into chocolate. That's violet. So he sent me 50 kilos of cacao, and it was absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. At that point, nobody in the Sierra Nevada really knew how to ferment cacao properly, or what to do with the cacao. They just kind of dried it and sent it off. So I showed him what went wrong, and so he went back and tried again and learned some more, and we tried again, and it was still terrible. And anyways, I think that went on for about a year of, every couple months he would try a different technique, and eventually we started getting some good cacao from them, and his wife was here with their kids, and she started coming over to our little tiny factory, learning how to process the cacao. And so once we finally had a really beautifully tasting cacao that was coming from their farm, I thought, what better to do with it than to share it for ceremonial cacao? Because at that time, this was like 10 years ago, there still wasn't a lot of ceremonial cacao in the world. It was kind of a new thing. There wasn't really that many options in the world. And to have beautiful organic cacao grown in a spiritual way, I really wanted to share that. So I started trying to put that out there, and nobody really knew what it was. In the beginning, I just kind of had to keep giving it away and giving it to people that I thought might know what to do with it. And we just kept growing from there. And I eventually started finding ways to sell it in the world. And now we export about, 1,000 pounds a month.
1,000 pounds?
Yeah.
I think at least 20 of those go to Loire.
Yeah. It goes all over the world. We export to the US, Australia, England, Europe. So we've really developed quite a beautiful community of people that love our cacao a lot. And we now started working with a few other regions. We have cacao from Putumayo, which is grown by the Inga community there. Really beautiful project they have. And of course, we have our own cacao here at our new farm, which I've been really trying to spend about 2 years. We've been working on really developing the cacao we have here, and I've just started offering that. So, it's really a beautiful project, and it's been really interesting to see and learn just how much our cacao really touches people in the world, whether it's for ceremonies or ceremonies that people organize, or just people that use it on a daily basis as a way to connect every day. So it's really a project that I'm quite proud of in that sense. And, the work that we have done with the Indigenous has been really great. This back and forth, this year-long learning process with Asdrubal, he has 17 brothers and sisters, and his wife has 14 brothers and sisters. And so the knowledge that they learned, they shared with their family, which then gets shared with their greater community. And now we're really getting a lot of really good cacao coming out of the Sierra Nevada. And of course, I'm not the only one to give credit to that. There's been a few people that have really worked hard sharing the Sierra Nevada cacao with the world, and they have won a lot of awards. But it's this sharing of knowledge that really is what changes the world. You know, when somebody learns something and this improves their lives, now they're making about twice as much per kilo that they used to make when they didn't know how to ferment it. So that's kind of what we're trying to do a little bit in Putumayo. They're still new to cacao in Putumayo, and we're still in a little bit of the learning curve, but it's a beautiful project to really help the people on the Inga reservation there with their, empowering them to have a way of improving their lives through bigger earnings.
Okay, thank you for sharing your story. So I see a lot of patterns like synchronicity. You weren't really looking for it, then ayahuasca found you, and then it's kind of like my story and many people that I interview. It just happens to you. For various reasons. And yeah, the Colombian style ceremonies can be very shocking for new people. It's like you come and here's your cup, and sometimes it's uncomfortable and you don't really have the amenity. So that's kind of what we're trying to combat at La Guaira, make it comfortable, especially for the first time or so. When you drink the medicine, you don't get that scary experience. But I'm glad you persisted and you had a beautiful experience eventually. And the story about not feeling connection and then figuring out that there was connection all along, that's very common because we have it all the time. People drink the medicine and they say like, yeah, nothing really happened. And then they go ahead and describe a perfect ayahuasca experience. Like, I felt this and I felt this and I cried and I purged, but it's like I did not connect because it's just not what they expected. So let's talk about cacao, right? Because that's your specialty. You said that, people reach out to you and they tell you how cacao changed their lives, either in working with it individually or in a group setting. So tell us about this. What is cacao's effect on people's like healing and growth journey? What is the role of this medicine in this land?
Well, cacao is really it's certainly a more subtle medicine as compared to ayahuasca. It doesn't really quite, do that. But I think it's a really beautiful medicine that can be many things to many people. It can, what it's really known for, because it has theobromine and the polyphenols and all these things that help elevate your mood. It also works with your cardiovascular system, and so these two in combination can be a really powerful way to open up your heart space, open up your emotional space, help get the blood flowing in all of your body to really help move some energies around. So, if you want to have it in a ceremonial or in a spiritual way, this can be a really beautiful way to open up all of those possibilities. So if you have a cacao ceremony and, you share music and song, and then also open up and share thoughts and feelings. This can be really a way to help people that might not be able to do that on a regular basis for themselves. For me, I like to drink the cacao and just as a way to connect every day. I don't drink. A lot of people ask me if I drink cacao every day, and I don't. We have tons of cacao. We have like 5,000 cacao trees here. But every day I get up in my office and I look at the cacao trees, which are right behind us. And I feel like my whole life is cacao and that energy. But if I do drink it, I find it's a really great way to just sort of ground in and connect. And I think that's something that most folks are missing in life. Hello, Norman.
He's quite loud as well. For those who are not watching the video, it's this big dog.
Big, ginormous white dog named Norman. So, cacao can really help keep us connected. And I think that's the thing that most people are really missing in life is connection, whether it's to nature, whether that's to one another, whether or not that's to God, the universe, the source, whatever you want to call it. I feel that this connection is what really has most of the world feeling lost. So whether you can find that connection every day in your yoga practice or in your meditation practice or in your medicine work, working with ayahuasca or mushrooms, or in a daily practice of cacao. Sorry, I'm so worried that they're going to knock over your little stand.
No, it's okay.
It's that time of day that they get frisky.
Yeah, well, they see that you're here and you're watching, so they want that attention. I think we can go. The microphone will still pick up. So, guys, if you're hearing some other sounds, it's the two dogs. They have their daily ritual of playing and / fighting. So,
Yeah.
let's carry on.
There's no editing, I guess, of this, huh?
Yeah, I can't remove the background noise.
So, I really feel that if people were able to find this connection on a daily basis, that the world would be such a more beautiful place. And we as individuals wouldn't feel so depressed, so lonely, so lost. Because that is, I think, one of the biggest problems that most people face. All the anger in the world, all the frustration, all all these things all stem from the same thing as well. And I don't think we really need to, to put it on anyone what form that they find this connection in. A lot of people find that with their yoga practice. A lot of people find this with their meditation practice. A lot of people use both of these things. And sorry.
Some find it through playing fun.
Yeah. And they always want to do this at my feet. I'm trying to think of
I think it's
where.
an act. They do it for you as much as they do it for themselves.
So, if we could all find a way to connect, and connecting with nature is one of the most beautiful ways to do that. But the majority of the world lives in cities. They don't have the opportunity to go and connect with nature. So, cacao can be a really beautiful practice as a way to stay connected. So, instead of, getting up in the morning and feeling sad about your day, and, I got to get up and I got to go to work. I don't want to do what I have to do. Let me drink some coffee because I'm tired and I'm just going to knock it out. I'm going to wake up, instead of doing that, when you consciously decide to drink cacao as your morning beverage, well, then that's making a conscious decision that I am going to take a few moments to really focus on what I want to achieve today. What are my intentions for today? I think cacao can really help that. The Arhuacos believe that all of the thoughts and knowledge that has been passed down from their ancestors also can be passed on to people through their cacao or through their crops, whether that's cacao or coffee or coca leaves or sugar cane. They take care of their crops in the ancestral tradition, and they are constantly in this form of meditation and awareness, of their connection with the earth. And they believe that by sharing the cacao with you, that you can also tap into that as well. So, there are so many ways that cacao can be beneficial, whether it's spiritual or emotional or just physical, with the properties, all the vitamins and nutrients and antioxidants and, oh my God, all the things that are in there, maybe this. So there are so many ways that people can choose to drink cacao. You don't have to be, on a spiritual mission every day. I have people that buy it just because they want all the vitamins and nutrients and the polyphenols and the antioxidants as a theobromine, and this is part of their wellness, body activating routines. So, so many beautiful ways to use cacao.
So I know you're yourself is also you're very into the ayahuasca world, and you organize ceremonies, and you drank and still drink a lot of ayahuasca. So I want your take on this. When we offer cacao to the people at La Guaira, it's after the ayahuasca ceremonies are over. It's the morning right before they leave, and we try to use it as a tool for integration. You know, the importance of integration post ceremony, and specifically as a catalyst, because sometimes people go back home and they they just forget, life starts happening. But if they have this daily ritual where they can sit down and drink cacao, and then maybe together with it they can meditate or journal or set intentions for the day, as you say, and add other layers that's kind of stack it. But that sort of pleasant moment of drinking that cacao, because it is very tasty, and I congratulate you on figuring out how to make it tasty after all those tasks, because I drink it regularly myself, and it's also very addictive in a good way. So it's like using our desire and our addiction to something tasty and healthy, and then building other habits around it, and create this like morning ritual where for half an hour you drink your cacao and you just hold something warm and you connect, as you say. So what do you think about cacao as a potential tool for integration? And what do you think about integration in general?
Well, I think it's a beautiful tool, and I really like that idea. I might have to steal it. We have at times offered cacao as a way to open up the group when they first arrive. And I do know lots of people that offer cacao in their integration circles as well. As a powerful heart opener, this is also a great way in your integration sessions to allow people to open up a little bit more, to really feel that. But the idea of carrying forth your experiences in the tools that you learn in your ceremonies and your retreats, to stay connected afterwards, whether that's, cacao, whether that's the music that you hear in ceremony, whether that's the fluids that you get from the plant fluids that are often available in ceremonies. These are all great tools to be able to reconnect, because I think one of the biggest problems is people come to ceremony and they have this beautiful experience and they learn so much, and then they go back into their real lives, and then it's like, oh, and little by little you start losing that connection, that beautiful feeling. It's like, oh, somebody cut you off on the road, and oh, your boss is mean, and oh, the lady at Walmart was rude, and like all these things, like, oh, I have to go stand in line at the bank for an hour, and like, oh, I pay this, and I got to do, like little by little it starts taking away that beautiful connection that you achieved in ceremony. And so whatever tools that we have to stay connected to that'll bring us back to that moment is really great. So by closing your ceremonies with cacao, I think that's a beautiful idea, because then also it gives the opportunity to the people like, oh, wait a minute, I remember how great I felt that morning, and then I'm going to try to recreate that every day, and then I'm going to focus on that every day, and I'm going to remember what I learned and what I was trying to achieve in my ceremonies. And I think that's a beautiful way. Integration is actually kind of a new thing that people have really been talking about the last couple of years. When I first started drinking medicine here in Colombia, it was just like, well, here's your cup, and whatever happens to you happens to you. And so there's no talk about like anything having to do with like the history of the medicine, or the elders in Colombia really believe that the medicine will show you what you need to know. Mm-hmm. And that's great if you have the opportunity to really work with the elders and like drink a lot of medicine. And that's great, because the medicine will teach you all these things. But the Western mind wants to know, why does this happen this way? How does this happen? Like, what does this mean? And I really believe that the Western mind works a little bit differently. And so this is where it's really important to find a way to bridge what you learn from the elders, what you learn from the medicine, and somehow connect that into your experience and then carry that forth into your life. So, you know, the last couple of years, there's been a lot of integration talk. A lot of people have been offering classes, facilitator programs. A lot of psychologists, a lot of therapists have really been adding this into their practices. And it's just all of a way, because oftentimes you can go to ceremony and just get blown wide open and have this beautiful out-of-body experience, out-of-world experience, all these things that happen to you, and then you're just sort of dumped back into life. And like, how do you integrate the two realities? And if you don't find a way to combine the two somehow, then it gets lost. So I think the integration thing is a really great thing. It's not something that I'm super great at. But we have a lot of people.
As a busy business owner, I understand. Myself too.
And it's so funny because, you know, I don't really like to talk about the medicine. I don't really like to talk about my work with the medicine. You know, the majority of people that meet me in the world would never even know that this is what I do if they didn't meet me at ceremony. So, you know, my experiences with medicine are my experiences. And I don't really think that it needs to be shared and talked about too much, because I think it kind of takes away a little bit. And it's not up to me to convince everyone else that they should have the medicine. If somebody comes to me and wants to, you know, thinks that they might be ready and they want to know how to do that, well then great, you know, I'll help you find the right place for that. But it's not my job to tell you it's your time. And it's not my job to tell you what the universe was trying to tell you in your ceremony. And I think that's something that a lot of people need to be really, really careful when they choose their integration therapist or that, so that so I'm always super conscious of not interpreting other people's experiences. I just don't think it's my place in the world.
Yeah. Well, I think only the person themselves can know the meaning, because your subconscious talks to you in the language only you can understand. But let's go back to cacao. So what is ceremonial cacao, and how is it different from, let's say, just the cacao you buy in the store?
Well, there really isn't any difference. I mean, cacao is cacao, right? In the sense, you know, our cacao is, you know, it's really the difference between ceremonial cacao and regular cacao lies in how it was prepared and how it is treated before it gets to you. So, you know, if your goal is to use cacao as a tool in your life for your well-being, for your mental, physical, emotional well-being, then you really want to choose cacao that has the right base. You know, I mean, if you're buying cacao that was factory farmed per se, you know, like in Peru, they're just cutting down so much native forest to set up these huge industrial plantations of cacao. And so, you know, the deforestation that happens, and then you have massive corporations that own these farms and workers that are not getting paid. God forbid you buy cacao from Africa, where, you know, still 80% of the labor that works in the cacao fields in Africa is slave labor and child labor. You know, those energies go into your cacao. And it's the same with your food as well, and your medicine as well, and, you know, everything in life. But if you choose cacao that has been grown in harmony with with what's around it, that hasn't been, that the forest hasn't been cut down for your cacao, that it hasn't been sprayed with chemicals, that the people that grow it are growing it with the right intentions to, that it's not just this huge commercial project. All of those things will energetically infuse itself in your cacao, and that's what you really want for ceremonial cacao. But if you were to look at, my cacao trees versus this cacao tree, the cacao bean is the same bean, but energetically, it's really important to think about where your cacao comes from and who is processing it as well. So you have to look at how it's grown, and the deforestation and the chemicals and the, what goes into this, who's processing it, who's touching it. But then also when it gets to the factory that processes it, what are their intentions? Is it just mass produced and somebody's buying it to call it ceremonial cacao so they can make a lot of money? Are they really putting the intentions in there to create a beautiful product, a whole product, in the sense that, we know where it comes from. These people are making more than they're asking for on this. We have this, like our relationship with the Indigenous here. We have, a beautiful relationship with them, that they get paid more than they ask for. That we help them with other projects, that there's exchange of knowledge. So this is really important for me. But then when the cacao is here at our farm, it's like, well, we treat it with the care that, we don't just like, oh my God, we have to go up every day. We have to make cacao and nobody wants to be here. This sucks. No, the people that are making cacao really want to be there and make beautiful cacao for you. Because this is what's important. And I package it. We use 100% completely compostable packaging. It doesn't go in plastic. It's not, there's so many different layers of this, just my packaging. Is it made in China and shipped here? And, are we creating more pollution in the world with this? For me, all of these things are really important so that when you get your cacao that I produced, that I know that I know the people that grew it were happy. I know that the people that made it were happy, and you're happy to get it. And we've done as little bit of damage to the world as possible in the process of getting it to you.
This episode is sponsored by La Huayra Ayahuasca Retreat. Most of you know La Huayra if you've been listening to this podcast for a while. Some of you might have already been to La Huayra before. For those who don't know us yet, we started La Huayra 4 years ago. At La Huayra, we combine authenticity, accessibility, and affordability. La Huayra is currently highest rated ayahuasca retreat in South America with more than 700 5-star reviews and an average rating of 5 stars. If you come to La Huayra, you'll experience powerful, authentic ceremonies led by our indigenous shaman, Fernando, in a very beautiful venue just 1 hour south of Medellin, Colombia. We're surrounded by nature and have comforts like hot water, Wi-Fi. At La Huayra, our team has guided more than 2,500 people through this life-changing transformation of ayahuasca experience. At the same time, we keep it very affordable. So whether you're coming for healing, clarity, or a deeper connection to yourself, La Huayra is the best choice. If it is your first time drinking ayahuasca, you will love our 3.5-hour preparation course and integration support. All of that is included in price, as well as pickup from Medellin, accommodation, and ayahuasca. Visit lahuayra.com to book your retreat or learn more. La Huayra, connect, heal, grow. LAWAYRA.com. So I just realized I've been lying to people because I thought that the difference between the ceremonial cacao and the store-bought cacao is the type of the bean. Because they told me that it's a criollo bean. It has more theobromine.
Well, you're partially correct. It depends. There is a lot, especially here in Colombia, there is a lot of criollo cacao. A lot of the table chocolate that you might buy at the stores here. Table chocolate is really only a Colombian thing. Your listeners in the U.S., we don't have that there. There's there's baking chocolate, which is really low grade, 100% pure chocolate, but you don't want to make a ceremony out of that.
Yeah, it doesn't taste the same way.
No, but most of the cacao in Colombia is fine flavor cacao. I think it's like 95% of the cacao in Colombia is fine flavor cacao. So we have Criollo trees, which are the original trees, or as closer to the original as possible. And you'll find a lot of that in the Sierra Nevada, because they have their old trees. And what they do is they just use the seeds from the same trees and make new trees, because they don't have the money to buy fancy trees. They don't have the money to buy chemical fertilizers. They don't have the money to buy chemical insecticides. Like if it grows, there's really not that many diseases that cacao are susceptible to. There is a mold that grows on it. And if the best thing to do is just cut it off and get rid of that. And eventually you can control that without any chemicals, but they don't have the money for that. Most of the growers in the Sierra Nevada, they have very small amounts of trees. They grow a little bit, working with Asdrubal, and he works a lot with the community there and the associations, and they've started to form small associations where they bring in their harvest to a central fermentation plant so that it gets properly fermented, and then from there it ends up here. So it's still community run, but this ensures a more even taste, because I really think the taste is important. There's a lot of people that tell you that, no, ceremonial cacao, it should be harsh, it should be strong, but if you don't like to drink it, then you're not going to drink it, and then you won't ever get the benefits. So, I started off learning how to make chocolate, bean to bar chocolate for chocolate bars. So I took that same knowledge as to how to find the right beans and how to, toast it correctly and how to process it correctly so that your ceremonial cacao tastes like fine chocolate, because I think that's really important. So you will find a lot of Criollo trees here in Colombia. We have a lot here of the trees that came with the farm. Some of them are hybrid trees, and the new ones that I planted are hybrid trees. The problem with the Criollo trees, they're the originals, they don't have the disease resistance and they don't produce a whole lot. So you won't find a whole lot of them planted as much anymore. But when people talk about hybrid trees, you often get a lot of people worried that it's genetically modified, and that's not the case. It's not genetically modified. There are amazing university programs here. There's such great studies on cacao here in Colombia. It's really beautiful. But what they're doing is they're taking the original trees and they graft on branches of other cacaos that may produce more to create a hybrid tree. And so this is really beautiful because it can double the production of a farmer. And, by eradicating some of the diseases that are common and also increasing production, but you're still getting really fine flavor cacao. So like all of the cacao we get from Putumayo, most of that will be Trinitario cacao, which is the hybrid cacao. That's the cross between Criollo and Forastero, and it creates a beautiful tasting cacao, but it's a little bit easier for the farmers to manage. In Putumayo specifically, over the last 10 years or so, the government has been working with a lot of NGOs, a lot of charities, to help the people plant cacao in place of other crops that may not be as legal.
Like coca?
Yeah. And so it started out as a project to really replace coca, which is a whole different story. But I think the people are starting to really notice that, hey, cacao, is a really valuable crop. And it's really great for the environment, and it's really great for a lot of things. You can grow it in conjunction with a lot of other things. So a lot of people are really now starting to really catch on and plant a lot of cacao. But what we're now getting out of there was originally programs to help empower the people And so there was a lot of cocoa eradication programs and a lot of programs to help the indigenous that live on the reservations with new crops. And so they were given trees, which are hybrid trees, and our most popular chocolate bar comes from Putumayo. It's some of the best chocolate I've ever had. So it's not saying that it doesn't have value. So you are partially correct. Here in Colombia, like I said, 95% of the cacao here in Colombia is fine flavor cacao. If you go to Africa, it's pretty much all forastero cacao, which was developed from the original cacao trees, but it produces just massive amounts of cacao that just really tastes horrible. And you'll find that a lot in Africa, and you'll find that a lot in Peru. So it's a mix. It's actually interesting. Cacao originated in the Amazon basin. So you could probably go to Ecuador or to Brazil, and they'll tell you that no, cacao originated here in our country. But it came from the Amazon, which at that point, there was no Colombia, there was no Brazil, there was no Ecuador, there was no Peru. It was all just the Amazon basin. And it was actually a very short bush. It wasn't actually a tree. And, it was the indigenous at the time, were so industrious, and they were so observant of all the things that were in the forest. So they were constantly walking around and seeing what could be of use in their natural environment. And they discovered that the birds would go and peck at the cacao pods, the little ones that were growing on these little bushes, and the birds would then start to fly like they were drunk. And they discovered that once the cacao juice started fermenting, that it became alcohol. And so its first original purpose was as an alcoholic beverage. But the indigenous, they had, this huge network where they were constantly traveling by boat and visiting other tribes and eventually they took the cacao out to the ocean. And at that time, there was all these slave ships and spice traders moving around the planet on their sailing vessels. And they went there and started trading it with people, and it became super popular for that. And people started cultivating the cacao, and it started changing from being a bush into a tree. Still not a very big tree. Really, most of them are only about, 5-6 feet tall. And then it started spreading around the world. So this original one, you won't see it too much anymore. But it went to Mexico, and it went to Africa, and it went to all the islands, and it started changing depending on where it went. So we ended up with Criollo trees. We ended up with the forastero trees that developed in Africa, and the Trinitario trees, which were a combination of the two. In the island of Trinidad, they planted both because there was a lot of ship traffic there. They had planted both and were really developing a lot of cacao there. And then a hurricane came and wiped out the entire island. And so they were so busy focusing on rebuilding their cities that they didn't really pay that much attention to the old, the old farms and stuff. And new trees started popping up that were a combination of the Criollo and the forastero. And the people found out that it had the beautiful taste of the Criollo beans, but it was stronger and produced more. And so that's pretty much what you see when people talk about fine flavor cacao. Most of it's Trinitario, and you can find that all over the world now.
So it's interesting that you talk about Colombian government replacing coca plantations with cacao plantations, because one of the sort of unofficial missions that I'm on is rebranding Colombia from bad drugs to good drugs, or from cocaine to ayahuasca, or in this case, to cacao as well. So I'm glad that people are doing it already. It's a great idea, right?
Well, the theme of coca, it's such a delicate thing to talk about because, if you're not in Colombia, you think of, the drug wars, and you think of Pablo Escobar, and you think of all these things. And so the theme of coca is really, really, really complicated because there are people there are a lot of people growing coca still to this day, and you can even find it nearby here in Antioquia. But mostly it's in different parts because it's easier to control over there. But there are people that are forced into growing it that really don't have any choice. They're just told, like the Kofans are told, you're going to grow coca for us now. And you can't say no. But they get paid for it, so it's a complicated thing because coca is one of the original sacred medicines as well. I don't know if your Titus or your elders or anyone here on the podcast has really ever talked about the law of the origin. It's quite interesting because the Indigenous speak about how every plant medicine has an owner. And this owner is the spiritual owner that knows all of the knowledge of the plant and how to utilize it to help the people and how to properly take care of the medicine. So we have tobacco, which the Indigenous talk about as being the first gift to humans from God, and all the beautiful things that tobacco can do. And it was gifted to the people. And according to the legends, the Indigenous people of the Amazon, the Mure and the Witoto, are the owners of tobacco. And they're the ones that carry all of the spiritual knowledge of tobacco. Of course, it's used everywhere, but, you have rapé, which is the powdered tobacco. You have, and then you have coca, and supposedly the owners of coca are the tribes of the Sierra Nevada region. You have ayahuasca, and the supposed owners of that are the Kofan and the Inca and the Siona people of the lower Putumayo region there. And you have cacao, which also has a spiritual owner. And this is kind of a funny one, but the spiritual owner of cacao is technically the ancient Mayans and the Aztecs, because it was even though it originated here, it was the ancient Mayans and Aztecs that really started to understand the spiritual properties of cacao and how to utilize it. So they're the spiritual owners of that. So every plant medicine has a spiritual owner. They say marijuana its spiritual owner is in India, the natives of the actual country, India. And so
my people are the spiritual owners of the vodka.
All right.
Kidding.
But that's a good one. You can have that. So when these medicines are used in accordance to the rules that have been set forth, then these are beautiful things for a person. Coca is one of the most nutrient-dense plants that is found on the planet. It has so many beautiful nutrients and properties, and that's why it's been used for so long. Because it's a food for your body. It's also a sacred medicine to stay connected to God. It can help with all kinds of ailments. The same with tobacco. Tobacco can, keep you connected to God. It can also, cure all your physical ailments, cure your depressions, all of these things. But the problem is, if you're not using these things in accordance to the rules, that's when they no longer serve the people. So you have coca, which is this beautiful thing, but somebody comes along like, hey, this kind of feels good and we can make a lot of money if we do this. So they take the coca and they treat it with chemicals, and then it becomes this product and people are getting rich, and it's created all these wars and all this death. But the original plant is a beautiful thing. So to only talk about, eradicating coca, and the same with ayahuasca, you have the beautiful pure way to do it, or you can, extract the chemicals and, get really, really high, but you're not really connecting with it. Cacao is a beautiful medicine, but, well, you overprocess it, you add a lot of chocolate, well, then it makes you fat. It's...
Add milk and sugar and you...
Yeah. So then it takes away from the beautiful properties that it has. So every plant has this spiritual owner. And so, so in the context of coca, coca has been used by the people, of this country for millennia. It is a powerful, powerful medicine. You'll see the tribes of the Sierra Nevada always walk around with their bag and they're always chewing on their leaves. The tribes of the Amazon will turn it into mambe and share this in their community meetings as a way to connect as communities. So when we talk about eradicating it, you're not really talking about the real reasons behind this. I mean, one problem is you have massive amounts of poverty, especially here in the rural parts of Colombia where there is no access. I mean, you're here at my farm. It was a whole journey to get here. Imagine the people that live here that don't have any access to anything. And here's a way to quickly make some money. And, there's no schools, there's no social services, there's no nothing. And people need to eat. So you have that. So you can't just say we need to eradicate coca, because it has a beautiful purpose. And there is a great need for the people that are growing it. They just really need to feed themselves. They need to send their kids to school, So unless we address the issues that are kind of causing this, but that's, like I said, a whole nother story.
Yeah. Well, I personally really like mambe, for example, and it's a beautiful medicine, and tobacco and cacao, and I explore a bit of all of them, and they all have their use. It's just it's less about the plants themselves and more about the intention with which you use them. Should everyone stop drinking coffee and start drinking cacao every morning?
I don't know. It depends on your relationship with coffee. I've never had a cup of coffee in my life, and that is purely because as I was growing up, my mother, who still to this day cannot function to do anything without her coffee every morning. She has to have a cup or two of coffee. So I remember being a kid, we couldn't go ever do anything. I remember waking up on Christmas morning and there'd be a tree full of presents and we couldn't open the presents until my mother had her coffee. So I decided I was never going to have coffee. So I don't drink coffee. But if you have a healthy relationship with coffee, I don't see any reason why you can't continue to have that relationship. But if you're only drinking coffee as a way to get yourself motivated every day, if your coffee has switched from being something pleasurable and something beneficial to your life to being something needed, well, then that's when you might need a shift. I think connecting to cacao is a much better way to start your day because of the properties that cacao has. I think it's so much more beneficial for you. But people love their coffee, and the coffee growers grow coffee for a reason, and they still need support as well. So,
well, I personally think within the next 50 years, more and more people will start drinking cacao instead of coffee, because it's just, it's less strong, less jittery, has more properties. So maybe doing both at the same time. But I'm a believer in the future of cacao. So, on the topic of cacao, you mentioned cacao culture in Colombia. It's available here. People drink it. What else have you noticed? And do you know why? Why is it? What's the history of it? Why is it so? Why is it available here but not in the U.S.?
I don't know. I don't know why the U.S. doesn't have such a cacao culture in the morning. I mean, the U.S. is, we have hot chocolate, which is mostly milk powder and sugar and a little bit of cocoa powder. And that's what I drank growing up as a kid. I think here in Colombia, because there is so much cacao grown here, families all over the place, they'd have, their few cacao trees. They'd roast a little bit on the stove. They'd mash it up and they drink, hot cacao drinks. And this became part of the culture here. And, when you go to a restaurant in Medellin for breakfast, you're given a choice. Do you want cacao or do you want coffee? And you'll never see that outside of Colombia, I don't think. But it's also like the worst possible quality cacao that you will ever encounter. Most of the time, it's absolutely disgusting. And they have to cover it up with lots of sugar or cinnamon or, in some cases, cheese. I don't even know what the cheese of the cacao thing is. But I like it. I like, our neighbors and friends are really happy when I get a batch of cacao in that doesn't meet our standards, and I give it away. So they're not used to super high quality stuff. But that also applies to coffee, because traditionally all the good coffee was exported, and they didn't know until just recently what good coffee was. So
Yeah. So you mentioned that local people, they just dry it, grind it up, and then make a cacao. So that's kind of process. But how is that process different where you have, I've seen your little factory there. What's the process of making good cacao?
well, one of the most important things is that you start off with good quality cacao. It has to be well fermented, and it has to be well dried. If you don't have that base, you're never going to get anything good out of it. But if we start off with good cacao, then the next really important step is the roasting. It has to be roasted. I know there's a huge movement of people that talk about raw cacao, and I can tell you that there is no such thing as raw cacao for a couple of reasons. One is, in the fermentation process of fermenting the cacao, it naturally gets up to about 140 degrees, which is well above what the raw foodies say is the maximum temperature that qualifies for raw food. I think it's 110 degrees. And so this naturally occurs if it doesn't naturally generate that heat in the fermentation process, it won't change the flavor. So if you were to go out in the cacao fields right now and pick a cacao pod, first you'd suck off the juice, which you had some cacao juice earlier. You'd suck that off, and then you end up with the bean. And the bean, you can eat it just like that, raw, but it kind of tastes like a nut. It doesn't taste anything like chocolate.
Mm-hmm. Same with coffee, right?
Yeah. So the first part of starting to get the chocolate flavor that everybody is looking for starts in the fermentation. And if you don't get it up over that temperature, it's not going to ferment right, and you're not going to get the chocolatey flavor. And the second part of really developing the chocolatey flavor is in the roasting. So if you don't roast it, I do know there's a company that sells unroasted cacao. It's absolutely disgusting. It doesn't taste like anything. And it certainly doesn't taste like chocolate. So if you don't roast it, you're not going to get that flavor. And we try our best to roast it at a lower temperature for shorter amount of times. That's one of the big tricks of what, if you end up with cacao that doesn't taste good, is they over roast it for long periods of time to try and kill all those off flavors. So as long as we start off with a good bean, we've just lightly roast it to sort of pull out a little bit more of the cacao flavor. From there, we take off the shells. We don't waste any part of the cacao. I sell the cacao shells as cacao husk tea, which is super, super popular because it's very light. It has a nice chocolate flavor. It's full of theobromine, full of magnesium, full of all of that stuff, but it has 0 calories, 0 caffeine. But yeah, our cacao husk tea has gotten so popular that half the time I'm out of it because I can't produce as much tea as people want. So we separate out the tea, and then it goes into the stone grinders. So they grind for a few days, so they're perfectly smooth. It's also in this grinding process that it helps expel all of the acidic and bitter flavors that live in the cacao bean, and it's very, very important. So I know there are some companies out there that claim to have raw cacao, but there really is no such thing. If you have something that tastes anything like chocolate, it's not raw. And there is no possible way for it to be raw. It's physically, chemically, scientifically impossible.
Yeah. So last question. Let's say somebody just did a retreat at La Guaira and they bought a pack of cacao. They're back home. What's the best way to prepare their morning or afternoon ceremonial cup of cacao?
Well, I usually use about a half an ounce, or in grams, it's like 15 grams of cacao per cup. I have to have some sugar in mind, but I use panela, which is the
cane juice sugar.
Cane juice sugar. I put a little of that in there. I put it in water. I heat it up and then I have a cacao drink. I don't usually put milk in mine or any alternative milks. I know lots of people like it that way. I don't think it needs it. A lot of people like to put cayenne. A lot of people like to put other spices in there, cinnamon. I like mine pure, a little bit sweet. Sometimes just a little touch of salt. Pulls out the chocolate flavor. I don't like it super, super strong and super thick. That's why I use about 15 grams. If I'm preparing it for a ceremony, I might make it thicker to give people a little.
What is the ceremonial dose that you would give to for a person?
A ceremonial dose should really be between like 3/4 and 1 full ounce. So that's like 20 to 28 grams. But that'll end up with a really thick cup of cacao, which can be difficult. So it also goes back to it needs to be prepared in a way that people are going to enjoy it. Because if they don't enjoy it, they're not going to appreciate it. They're not going to connect to it. They're not going to keep doing it. So, but on a daily basis, 15 grams of cacao, 20 grams of cacao is more than enough to really feel. And I can feel it even as much cacao as I drink and as much cacao energy I have around here all the time. 1 cup of cacao, and I definitely feel it in the energetic push in my body, the movement of energetic flow. It's really beautiful.
Very nice. Well, it's getting dark here, so we're gonna start to wrap up. Danielle, tell the listeners where they can find more about you and where can they get your cacao.
Well, we are origincacao.com, which is origin with an E, Origen, which is the Spanish spelling, origincacao.com. You can find us on our own website. You can also find us on Amazon in the US, Amazon in the UK, and Amazon in Australia. We have distributors all over the world, so you can find us as Poland, Iceland, the Netherlands. I sometimes even here you can find us in Bali at times. So,
and you can even find some at Lawara store.
Yes, you do end up selling quite a lot of cacao every month.
Yeah.
I'm very happy about that.
Yeah.
So,
thank you, Danielle. Thank you for educating us on the topic of cacao.
yeah, sorry, I can nerd out a little bit, and
I'm sure some people appreciated that, and I definitely like to learn. Guys, you're listening to Cacao Podcast. Just kidding. Ayahuasca Podcast. As always, with you, the host, Sam Belief, and I'll see you in the next episode.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to support us and psychedelic renaissance at large, please follow us and leave us a like wherever it is you're listening. Share this episode with someone who will benefit from this information. Nothing in this podcast is intended as medical advice, and it is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This episode is sponsored by Lawira Ayahuasca Retreat. At Lawira, we combine affordability, accessibility, and authenticity. Lawira, connect, heal, grow. Guys, I'm looking forward to hosting you.